Sorry about that. Please go ahead.
I can't repeat all that. So
no, I don't want you to start over. I just want to make sure I get the rest of it. Thank you.
This one, like if you like periodic tables, like sometimes there's too many periodic tables of everything. But this is actually really interesting. It actually works like a periodic table. So you've got, I forgot what the rows were called in periodic tables. That's how long it's been since chemistry, but sound ones, visual, quiz-like, and others. And then on the left, easy, and ones that are significantly hard. So this is all interesting. So each one, drag the words, it sort of explains it, give you a sense about what to use, and then a link to the documentation. This is actually really nice because this was done this is the H5P itself. So this is done in the course presentation tool. So it's not just PowerPoint, next, next, next. You can create things that link to different slides in the presentation. So I think this is a pretty good useful for understanding the different tools that are in there. So those are some different ways that we tried to make it sensible because it can be dizzying when you look at it. So that's why in my cooking metaphor, I have a little exercise that you really don't start cooking by just reaching into the drawer and pulling out something. So typically what you want to do is like get a sense about what the food tastes like. And so you want to look more at examples of existing content to get a sense if that's sort of really what you want to do. I'll have in here, and all these links are available on my presentation page. I have a couple H5P introductions that are built in H5P. I showed you a little bit of the one from Mohawk College. This one from University of Saskatchewan is really good, the Hidden Gems H5P. It's designed for distance instructors and has, again, it uses H5P to explain H5P. So that's sort of the style that I'm trying to go into here. And so here's this idea about where can I find really good H5P stuff? So this is what we got our project people on, because before you start figuring out what you can do with H5P, you should look at what other people have done and sort of get a sense about, oh, that might give me an idea. So one that I really like is from eCampus Ontario. It's called H5P Studio. So any teacher or higher ed employee in Ontario can put H5P in here, but it's open to the world to be able to browse and explore. And it's very well organized the way it's structured. So here I have, I used a hotspot within H5P to let you know on the left are these different filters. So yes, you can search by a keyword, which is pretty obvious. One that's really important is you can filter by the H5P content type. So if you want to see just ones that are branching scenarios or just ones that are agamato, that's one way to figure out what a tool can do. You can also do a keyword based on academic disciplines. So you can look at everything in H5P that's in medicine and nursing, or you can say like, show me all the summary activities that were categorized under medicine and nursing, because it usually makes more sense to zero in by discipline. You can also filter by license, et cetera. So H5P Studio, it's got several thousand examples to look at, range from kind of the stuff that people are just experimenting with to some really sophisticated. So I think that's one of the best places to look. There is a new project by, his name is Yasin Dahi, who developed this platform called Learnful. And right now it says it's for Canadian educators, but actually anybody can create an account there, and you can sort of get access to H5P as well as a couple other interesting platforms. And that whole H5P Studio code that he developed is eventually going to be open sourced through there. So if you want to create your own studio, you can do that. So at this point, we can look at another method for finding H5P content, which I'm just going to make the choice because I wanted to show you one of the more powerful ones is the Pressbooks directory, which if you're using Pressbooks, which I imagine a lot of people are, is one of the best ways to find examples of existing Pressbooks. But their search interface is really powerful because you can actually filter there by the number of H5P activities. So when I went there, did the screenshot, there's 2,800 books in the entire directory. I can put a query in here and I can say like, oops, forgot my own manipulation. I can do a query and say like, I want to show all the Pressbooks that have at least 20, so it's more than just 1 or 2 H5P, up to 300 H5P activities in the Pressbooks. And this got down to 358 books. Well, that's a lot to look at. And if I wanted to explore one, I can actually click a link and it'll show me all the H5P activities that are in this beginning ESOL textbook. But then I can do another filter. Let's say I'm interested in psychology, things that use H5P. Well, it got me 7. That's pretty good. And this Intro to Psychology remix of an OpenStax one has 84 H5P activities. So if you're into psychology and looking for an activity, I bet there's a lot that would be of interest to look at. And so just out of this process of discovering the fact that every Pressbooks has an ability to see all the H5P content in it, this is Alan's secret trick. You can take any web address for a Pressbooks open textbook. This one, the very famous Atlas of Renal Lesions in Proteinuric Dogs from Ohio State. If you just put H5P-listing at the end of the URL, it actually will show you. Now, a lot of them don't have any H5P. Oh, looks like I have a typo in my link. How about that? Yeah, this is what happens when you do a live demo, but let's see if this works. So this is what a listing looks like. And any Pressbooks will do this that has H5P. And they even added a feature because I asked Steele Wagstaff for it. This shows you that there's 123 in it. And so you can actually go through this right now and just look at the different H5Ps that were done in this book on renal lesions and proteinuric dogs, if that's your thing. So Pressbooks directory is a really good way to zero in on H5P, perhaps in the discipline area that you're interested in. And so that little trick will impress your friends and relatives. So do you want to see another method for finding H5P content or learn something else about H5P? Or exit?
Please put your choices in the chat or unmute yourself. Where would you like to go next? Another method, one vote.
Okay. Well,
we have an excited librarian brain.
That's okay. We love our librarians. So it may or may not work out for you, but I found, you can find a couple on the h5p.org site or even h5p.com with a Google search using the right keywords. So it's not the full, gosh, Alan, you really mangled, you forgot your colon in your URLs. You think I never did a link before. So for psychology, this, shows me 163 different results that people have created on the H5P, what is cognition, et cetera. So it's kind of hit and miss. I really wouldn't say that's the best method, but, like I say, you might get lucky. But the one that's most exciting, and I'm just going to take the realm here, is this H5P OER Hub that's been in development since I started the project last year. 98%, it's almost there. This is really exciting because this is being built into the H5P platform itself. So you'll have the ability when you publish your H5P, whether you're working in Pressbooks or WordPress or Canvas or Moodle, et cetera, if you want to, you can share that with this open repository of H5P content that will make it available to others to share. So at this point, it's available if you're using Drupal and Moodle, I understand. It's not in the other platforms, but 98% is pretty close and it will be there. If you're really interested, I was able to get access to a platform run in Drupal that let me see it. So once you get a sense about what it can do, it actually will put into the H5P interface the ability to search that repository. And if you want to, you can download something and remix, or you can share the content you create into it. So when that comes online, probably within this academic year, I would think so. It's probably going to be a game changer in terms of having the tool to search for OER H5P content within the H5P interface itself, which, and I don't know how I'm doing on my time here, but I want to just give you a sense, if you haven't seen it before, this is how it looks in WordPress. But again, this box here of the H5P content creation, it's exactly the same in any other platform that it's supported. So you can just pick a tool, like if you decide that you know that you want to do a dialogue card, you basically click this item, and then you actually go ahead and it actually launched me into the editor for that. One of the things that's rather interesting is that you can add new content is, come on, add new content, is that when you're looking at something in H5P, I really should have gone through this before, you always see these same links at the bottom of the screen. There's a reuse button. And so this says I can download what I'm looking at as one of these H5P files. That's great. What do I do with it? Well, you can upload it to any platform that edits H5P, and you basically have a copy of that to work on. And then you can modify or change or just use in whatever application you're doing. So that's reuse built right into it. If you don't see the reuse button, the author has disabled it. You also see rights of use. So this will give you all the licenses about the H5P as a total, which is the first thing you see, but also because H5P has built into it support for entering the license of all media that you use, it will include all of the attributions for images or videos, et cetera, within there. So it gives comprehensive amount of reuse information on the H5P. If you don't see that, that means the author hasn't filled out any metadata. You'll see that a lot because unfortunately, not everybody's a librarian and really knows the power of metadata. And the other ability is that you can embed this any place you can put HTML or an iframe, which is a lot of your LMSs or your authoring systems. So you can reuse this H5P app, any of them, in another platform just by using an embed code. So those are some pretty key features that are built into every H5P. How am I doing for time, Annika?
You have about 5 minutes left.
All right.
You have a question from Jonathan, if you're willing to
Yeah.
take it now.
Yeah.
He's asking if the code parts of the H5P problem openly licensed with GPL or something.
Say that again. If the code itself?
The code parts of H5P problems. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, the whole H5P platform, you can find it on GitHub. It is. I would have to look. I'm pretty sure it's GPL licensed because what it also enables you to do, and you'll find this, is there are people who create their own content types. So there's the ability to create things that are outside of that set that H5P offers. And there's this guy with H5P, Oliver Tacky. He's got one with augmented reality and a couple other ones. So there are people who are able to sort of build things that aren't built into H5P. And the great thing about that is I just saw one at a conference where someone had an exercise where you have to drag things in the correct order, which is kind of a useful activity. And so if you can download that as an H5P file in your authoring platform here, instead of picking one of these content types, if I upload and I pick a file, if I find one of these H5P files I've downloaded or have laying around, you can basically bring that into your authoring environment and you can use it, whether your H5P content type, supports that or not, because they're standalone. It's this idea of being a package that has all the functionality built into the content, not necessarily the authoring platform. Does that answer you, Jonathan?
So Alan, I'd love to let folks ask any questions if that's you at this point.
Yeah. Yep. I will. I purposely designed this so that there was a lot more than I could show.
That's great. And I did put the link to that presentation in the chat. We'll also send it out after.
Okay.
Does anyone have any other questions on H5P? Yeah, Jonathan.
I don't want to distract you, just ask a super geeky question. So you said H5P and JavaScript. So is there, you keep mentioning these sort of heavyweight platforms like Drupal and Pressbooks. If it's just H5P, HTML and JavaScript, couldn't you just put it on any website?
Yes, yes, yeah. It's standalone. It's like an HTML web page. So
Okay.
and there's a great one called I didn't get to show it. There's this platform. It's free from it's Lumi, and it's a desktop H5P editor. So if you don't have access to any of those other things, this lets you author H5P on your computer, and it's available for Mac, Windows, and Linux. And so you can import in something that you found, or you can make something from scratch, and then when it's done, you can put H5P anywhere. But yeah, you can put H5P in. If you do web page editing yourself, you can put it in there.
And also, if it's just kind of things that are done on the client side as opposed to requiring a lot of server side stuff, presumably students who have relatively low interactivity, once they've got it on their phone, they've got this, it should continue to work on their phone. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it has to come from the server. So, you have to download those softwares. I'm trying to think. Yeah, technically they could potentially, I'd have to think about, you could run it offline, which is really important. So, the files themselves, I've seen them range from a couple 100K to a few megabytes. Like it's the media that take up a lot of the space. The H5P part is pretty small because it's basically text that's in there. But the standalone part, again, if you had a way to distribute the H5P file or the content as sort of like, HTML that would run just locally, they could do a lot of interactivity. I know, I think I just heard at UBC, they're doing some projects where students are creating H5P in this Lumi platform. I don't know what for, but you can actually view the content in that platform as well.
Great, thanks. Matt commented that this is one of the main tools they're showing faculty because it's easy and it's easy to scale up over time.
Yeah, and really the beauty is it's not tied to this platform. So again, it works in these many different environments. And the thing that you create is always the same. So it's easy to move around. So, if Jonathan created his in Drupal, I can put it in my WordPress site because it's not really tied to anything. And it really, to me, it has like all the stuff that we really advocate for in terms of OERs being incredibly reusable.
Awesome.
I sound like I'm part of the ministry of it, but it's just exciting technology.
It's hard not to get excited about this. I think it's a game changer. All right. Well, thank you so much, Alan. That was a fantastic presentation.